Maverick. Noun, unusual person. A visionary, leader, go-getter, an independent thinker. They see the vision for their life and pull that future towards them with an unyielding belief that things can and must be better. They achieve what most won't. Innovative, influential, daring, and direct, with a remarkably high tolerance for taking calculated risk. A foe to the status quo. This is Passive Real Estate Investing with Mavericks. Your host, Neil Timmins, has been involved with over $300 million in real estate transactions. He's a published author, commercial property investor, and real estate syndicator. This show is for those who want to learn how to earn passive income through real estate investing. Now, here's your host, Neil Timmins.
Welcome to Passive Real Estate Investing with Mavericks, where we provide actionable steps to grow your passive income and become job optional. During this episode, you're going to discover the importance of having proper reserves in a deal. Say, for those of you who are new, I'm your host, Neil Timmins. I love passive income from real estate. Now, before I introduce you to today's Maverick, I want to make a request that if at any point you like what you're hearing, give us a thumbs up or subscribe to the show to never miss an episode. And if you love what you're hearing, well, give us a written review. Plus, be sure to check a look at the description of the episode. We pack it with thousands of dollars in free resources. So today, we've got the privilege to learn from two people who I would describe as extraordinarily passionate about investing in real estate in Connecticut and doing it in such a way that they get their money back. They recycle their dollars from deal to deal. Now, prior to their careers in real estate and meeting one another, they were a student and in finance. It all changed when they came together, connected, learned that each of them owned a duplex on the same street, and ultimately partnered together. Now we describe today's Mavericks as people who are passionate about getting their dollars back out of a deal so that they can put it into the next deal. I want to introduce you to today's Mavericks. I've got Michael Doherty and Ryan Deasy here with me. Guys, how are you?
Good. Thank you.
Doing well. Thank you.
Good. Well, yeah, thanks for taking the time to connect up here. Say, for the audience's sake, tell me who you are, where you're from, what do you do?
Yeah. So my name is, again, Mike Doherty. I'm based here in West Hartford, Connecticut. Grew up in New London County, Connecticut, and went to University of Connecticut, stores, graduated 2015, got a job in finance, wasn't crazy impressed with it. So always had a passion for real estate, and ended up getting my real estate license in late 2019, early 2020. Pursued a career in brokerage, real estate agent work, and then came to meet Ryan, and we kind of just started pooling assets and mindsets, and started investing together. Started with a little two-family, and grown all the way up into our latest acquisition, which is a 40,000 square foot mixed-use building in Middletown, Connecticut. So full-time real estate investor and commercial agent.
Yeah, so Ryan Deasy, just piggybacking off of what Michael just said, got started in 2012 with, again, a duplex. And that's actually how we came to meet originally. We actually found out that we owned duplexes on the same street just by happenstance. So that was pretty cool. But grew up in the northwest corner of Connecticut. I actually just built a house out there. Never thought I would move back, to be honest, but here I am. And yeah, just an investor looking to pick up more properties and helping other investors get mortgages. That's sort of, I've kind of transitioned out of my day job, and now I'm doing investor mortgages. So that's where I'm at now.
Tell me about the very first commercial deal you guys bought.
Had to be Corbin Ave, right? 1480 Corbin.
Yeah, mixed use. Yep, sure.
Yeah, that was a great building. We actually just sold it this year. So we bought it a few years ago. We did that was a postcard, right?
Yeah, that's an awesome story about how we found that.
Actually, go ahead, tell me.
Yeah, so that was a really early one. So we got started using Deal Machine for postcard marketing, and that must have been one of the first 1,000 postcards that we ever sent, and it was just a classic story. Such a nice older gentleman, probably in his 70s, had owned it for quite a long time, was so hands-on, took care of every nook and cranny, and we got it for a great deal, 10% down, seller financed, it really could not have been a better story. But it was 4 pretty big 2-bedroom units on top of a liquor store on the first floor. Beautiful building, well taken care of, really, really, really below market rents. And like Michael was saying, we just sold it to buy our latest 40,000 square foot mixed use building.
So we acquired that because our first deal together ever a few years ago was a 4-unit residential property that we raised private capital for, and we bought it cash from a wholesaler. So we held that for a year or two, sent out the postcard, found the 5-unit in New Britain, Connecticut, on Corbin Ave, which was our first commercial deal together. We actually did our first 1031. We sold that 4-unit we paid cash for, paid our investor back, and then took the proceeds and 1031 exchanged them into that 5-unit seller finance transaction. So no banks in both transactions. It was a great property, and it served us well.
Yeah, and effectively it was. I mean, people talk about no money down all the time. And in essence, that it was that, because the proceeds from the 4-unit were above and beyond what we needed for the 10% down on the 5-unit.
Sure, the way you rolled it up. What the 5-unit? What did you pay for it, and what did you sell it for?
We paid $310,000 for it, and we sold it as part of a 2-property portfolio for just under $600,000. I think the numbers ended up being like $590. So bought it for $310, probably put $50,000 to $60,000 into it, and sold it for $590 a couple years later. Got
it. Now, and you ended up rolling the proceeds into a 40,000 square foot, and this is your most recent deal. Tell me a little about that.
Yeah, so we hadn't been buying on market properties really at all. Like I can't remember the last one we did other than this building we're talking about now. But it's on market, but it was one of Michael's contacts from his brokerage work. It's got 2 restaurants on the bottom floor. It's got a basement that was leased out for a period of time. It's got, multiple floors above it. I think there's basically 4 floors. It's more or less half rented, 50% vacant. So I think the thing that really was attractive to us was like a lot of the heavy lifting is done, meaning like it has a brand new roof. I mean, that roof was not cheap. That's not something that we ever want to do again in our ownership. So like the fact that a lot of that stuff was already done and we knew the owner. So like, it's one thing to buy a property and not know the previous owner and just take his word for it. I mean, we've done that before. We've run into issues and those things happen, but we sort of trusted the previous owner to sort of give us the real rundown. And that was really comforting getting into like a building of this size, which is definitely our biggest one.
It's right on, as far as Connecticut is concerned, it's in Middletown, Connecticut, which is kind of really just in the middle of the state. But it's an up and coming area, very urban, city feel, and it's right on the buzzing Main Street. It's a good part of the Main Street. And so, our idea was to kind of capture that, hopefully appreciation. And as the city grows and builds up, we'll be a part of that. So as Ryan mentioned, it's about 50% full right now. So that all the heavy lifting is really in the leasing. And that's kind of our specialties. We'll go in, we'll find new tenants, we'll do custom build outs per the tenant's request, and we'll get it to a point where we can then go to a bank and refinance it and do a cash out refinance and pull out our initial down payment.
When it comes to the leasing, you operate in brokerage, Michael. Is that something that's in your wheelhouse? Will you do that leasing, or how do you handle the leasing component?
Yeah, typically, yes, you're absolutely right. But I found that I'm a big proponent of outsourcing tasks that either you can pay someone cheaper to do, or maybe you're just not the best person for the job. So while I am a leasing agent and commercial agent, I actually found a boots on the ground commercial broker who just is in the know. He's part of the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, he's like the guy to know in that area. And I truly think our money's better spent paying him to find those tenants. And so we actually hired him. I could very well do it myself, but I truly think from a time standpoint, if you can outsource it, then do it. So yes and no. Yes, I do it, but not for this particular one.
What kind of debt did you guys put in place on that property?
Yeah, it's a hard money loan. High interest. We're paying 11.9. We needed to come up with 30% down. And it's for, I think we've got 18 months on that one.
Yeah, 18 months, interest only. no prepayment penalty. We paid 2 points at the closing table. And as far as the 30% down, we came up with that one from the 1031 exchange of that 5 unit we just spoke about. And we also raised just under $500,000 from a private investor, again, paying, 10 to 12% interest and a couple points. So we are a little bit, pretty highly levered on it. However, we think we can turn it around within 12 to 18 months and reposition it.
Yeah, the magic on the financing on that one for us was the fact that the lender was able to roll in closing costs, and I believe it works out to be like 13 months of interest payments. So like it's half rented, right? So if you're paying, $2+ million for a property and you're paying basically 12% interest, those are sizable monthly payments. So it's not really something that the property could have afforded at the time. So like we've got 13 months to basically get our act together and start really generating some income, refinance, pay off the private lender, pay off the all the interest that's due, and then obviously pay off the principal owed to the bank.
And the fact that you went this way instead of going to a traditional bank, if you will, is because of the vacancy. Fair to say?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. A traditional bank would not finance this property.
Some of those deep value adds, property like this, where it's half full, they just don't touch it. And they want to see stability in that. So that's why your idea is to, we've got this value add opportunity. You're going to execute on this business plan and then go back to traditional bank financing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Within 12 to 18 months, we will find a commercial bank that will that'll put a 20-year note on the property, hopefully with a 10-year fixed or a 5-in-1 arm. But that's kind of the financing we will be looking for. Yeah.
Hey, in between your first deal and your most recent deal, what were the biggest lessons you guys learned?
Reserves. I would say reserves. You need to have capital reserves especially for some of these larger properties. I think there's a few times we kind of got caught, kind of scrounging some funds because a boiler went out or we needed a new roof or, just electrical issues, things that we didn't foresee. So I think if I could do it all over again, I would make sure I had enough capital reserves or access to capital.
Yeah, I mean, I think just in the essence of your question there, part of my answer would be that is like our smallest. Well, when we got started, obviously the deals were a lot smaller. Like for me, I really like being in these bigger deals. So just getting into bigger deals is like it'd be part of my answer. And the other one would be just being a little bit more educated on like, hey, is this roof done? Like, is this an expense we're going to have to incur down the road? Like, has the boiler been replaced? And if so, when? And that kind of piggybacks on what Michael said. It's like, if you're looking at like a, $50,000 roofing bill, like you better have the capital to be able to cover that whenever it comes due.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me, opportunities are absolutely everywhere. What turns an opportunity into a deal? What makes it an actual deal for you guys? What are you looking for in an opportunity?
I think for us, it's value add. We're not made of money. I know there's a lot of money out there, but if you have to keep putting 25, 30% down, you're going to run out of capital eventually. So for us, it's finding value add deals where we can add value through leasing or through construction or through management. And then, add enough value where you can just do a full cash out refinance. And it's okay if you don't pull out all your initial money, but you can at least get 15 to 20% of your initial down payment, all your capital outlay back, then you can reuse that for your next deal. So it's not so much like we look for a specific ROI or a specific cap rate, but it's can we pull our money back out?
Yeah, that should have been the answer to your last question for me. Like, we're not made of money, I wish we were, but if you're not able to get your capital back at the end of the deal or the majority of it, like where are you really going to be getting your money for the next deal? Of course, hopefully you have private investors, but at the end of the day, like you want to be able to keep rolling your money. So like, yes, we can go buy a turnkey property and it'd be all, butterflies and rainbows, but at the end of the day, like we can't really do a cash out and get all the money back unless the market appreciates like crazy or something like that. But I think, having that value add component so that you can refi and get your money out is huge.
When investors are looking to go into a deal, and passive investors, that is, what should they be looking for in an operator, in somebody executing on the plan? What kind of questions should they be asking?
Experience, I think, is got to be the biggest thing.
Track
record, experience. I mean, the only reason that we have private money, private capital, and it's funny because like I have a lot of people that I talk to, obviously in the real estate space. I'm sure Michael does, and I'm sure you do too. It's like, hey, like, can you hook me up with a private investor? It's like I'm almost offended because you know how long it took to get those contacts. Like, I didn't just walk down the street one day and just find a private lender. Like, it took building a track record. It took the experience that we both have to even get that conversation started. So I think experience is huge.
When past experience and past, say they found an operator, they're good. What questions should they be asking when it relates to the deal? You put a deal in front of them, what should they want to know?
I guess your business plan, how you plan to execute it. More importantly, how do you plan to, get their money back? I think setting expectations. So I think that investors should set expectations with the operator. I only want my money tied up for 12 to 18 months, or I'm okay for a 3 to 5 year plan. That will set, maybe that'll set expectations for the operator. Okay, I have this great person, but I want to make sure they're comfortable with the deal and I can, tie up their money for, a couple of years, or maybe it's just a 6 month, maybe they want to, a quick couple points and some interest. So I think setting expectations so everyone succeeds is probably the most important thing. The question I would ask is, this is my expectation and can you guys accomplish that?
Yeah. I think, additionally, like not just like your experience in general, like over your real estate investing career, but it's like, do you have any experience in the market in that particular area? Because it's like, point to a space on a map and find a property that seems to be a great deal. That's one thing, but like, do you really know the area that well? I mean, even in the area we're in now, there's like, it seems great, but there's some areas like, Michael and I would know, we need to stay out of that area, that somebody in a different state may not even know that because they're just not familiar with the area.
Yeah, boots on the ground is probably the most, unless you plan to have, so I guess the question you can ask, do you plan to have third-party property management, or are you going to manage this asset yourself?
Yeah.
Are you the boots on the ground, or do you know someone? Have you invested in this area before? How comfortable are you with market appreciation? And there's a lot of data that operators can use, but I think most importantly, have you invested in this area before, and are you going to be managing it yourselves, or do you have trusted third-party property management? No, I would say property management is cornerstone, pinnacle to any well-run asset. I mean, bad property management is a recipe for bad disaster.
What are you guys most excited about this year?
I think growing our social media presence. We're kind of interviewing a few different people now. Thank you again for reaching out, having us on your podcast. Getting our presence out there. A lot of times we kind of get focused in the day-to-day minutia of like going through and finding deals and the marketing and the operating. But I think social media presence is kind of what we're most excited for this year, and in ramping up our marketing efforts. Right? Yeah,
no doubt. Piggybacking off of that, like, I think one of the biggest struggles for at least me is like finding the time. So I think we're finally getting like a few other people in place to sort of help us with the social media, help us with the marketing, help us with the day-to-day. And I think that's really going to like take some of those annoying tasks off our plate so that we can focus on this huge deal that we need to lease out, or this office building that we just bought, or whatever it might be, focusing in on the stuff that we're really good at.
Let's do this. I want to move on in the final segment, what I call the final four. What do you think holds most passive investors back from hitting their personal next level, whatever that happens to be as it relates to passive investing?
I think it's probably lack of information. Most people don't move forward or buy something, part of the sales process because they don't have enough information. So I think just becoming more educated is probably what's holding most people back. It's lack of information.
Yeah, and I think for passive investing, it's probably finding an operator that they trust. I mean, people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. I think that's really tricky to be able to find someone that you're comfortable with. I mean, I think the majority of people probably want to invest also in an area that they know well. So it's like to find someone in an area that you at least like or that you're familiar with and that you know, like, and trust is probably a tricky thing.
What are you guys passionate about outside of real estate?
I love to go skiing in the winter, caught a bit of a travel bug, basketball, anything outdoors, really, golf. So, just kind of outdoor recreational sports, spending time with friends and family.
Just had my first kid. She just turned 5 months, like 2 days ago.
Oh, so congrats.
Thank you so much. That's really sort of turned things into perspective if they weren't there before. So it's really like, cultivating this whole thing to be able to, have her be proud of me, sort of thing. So that's kind of been my main focus.
Yeah. That's your favorite book.
Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
It's so everyone says it, but it truly was like a spark the real estate, that real estate bug.
I would agree, but not to give the same answer. And I'm so bad with names, but it's the one with the EOS Entrepreneur Operating System.
Traction.
That
was really solid. That was a good one.
Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Another good one. Good negotiating book. It's a couple good ones out there.
What's your guys' favorite way to make an impact in the community?
Another good question. So we recently joined, because our portfolio is kind of all over the state. We started joining every chamber of commerce, which is pretty cool. I'm also part of a local BNI, so there's a lot of nonprofits within those organizations. So I think just being part of that, being in the know what's going on in your city or town or area, and then reconnecting with a couple nonprofits or organizations that really speak to your heart in supporting them.
Definitely, yeah. On top of that, I would say that I feel like I owe sort of, call it time back to investors, especially beginner investors. I feel like it was only like yesterday that I was one of those. And I remember some guy spent way too much time with me. Like, it just didn't even make sense how much time he was spending with me. So I feel like I spend an inordinate amount of time with like sort of beginners and sort of just getting them up and running and, answering questions that they have.
Oh, that's terrific. Guys, I really appreciate you taking the time to connect up, come on here and share your story. It's wonderful to, I love hearing partnerships, how people come together, and the best ones are, where 1 + 1 = more than 2, right? They're synergistic relationships. It's really great. I'm going to give you guys the last word. If there's anything we didn't touch on, or I want to make sure that we might make sure we touch on now.
No, I think you covered everything. I mean, I really appreciate you, Neil, having us on here. Hopefully we, inspire some younger investors. Like Ryan said, we were there not that long ago, only a couple of years into the game, but it's been a great journey, a great ride, and we're very passionate about it. Yeah, and I guess the only other thing I'd say is if you're an investor in the Connecticut area, or even we do wholesaling too. We didn't even touch on that, but wholesaling in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Connecticut. So if there's anybody in that, sort of area that is looking for off-market stuff, is looking for agent stuff, needs investor mortgages, or is looking to invest passively in our deals, definitely reach out.
How do people find you, connect with you, follow you? Yeah,
we each have our own Facebook pages. We have Instagrams, LinkedIn. So we can give you that information. You can post it in the show notes.
Perfect. All the links will be below for both of you, both Michael and both Ryan. They're below.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
guys. Thanks so much. You bet. I'll see you soon. To our listeners, pat yourself on the back. You guys have made it to the end of the show, and most people never finish what they start. If you receive value from today's show, be sure to share it on LinkedIn, your Facebook page, or your social media platform of choice. Subscribe to never miss a valuable episode in the future. And if you found value in today's episode, give us a thumbs up with a positive review. If there's a particular topic you'd like to hear about, well, I want to hear from you. Shoot me a message on LinkedIn. The link to my profile is below in the show notes. You can connect with me there for more valuable content.